Not 1 inch. Not one. The reason is not because I like bump fire stocks, because I absolutely think they're ridiculous. And just to be extremely precise here, I really don't think they have a place. I know they're a fun thing, and I know it's a way for people that have either never been in the military or don't have the funds available to experience that sort of thing. And I don't want to take it away from anybody, but honestly, all these little devices that get around NFA rules are going to cost us in the long run. Case in point, what just happened in Las Vegas. I also believe that it's the right of those companies and those individuals to produce those products, and I don't agree with the NFA. But back to my main point. The reason I'm showing you this rifle is because it has an aftermarket Timney trigger. It's a very light, fast trigger. It doesn't necessarily change the characteristics of the weapon other than giving it a shorter reset with a lighter trigger pull, which wouldn't be relevant except Dianne Feinstein, with her bill, has said, hey, no bump fire stocks. Okay, I can get behind that. And no other modifications that can potentially increase the rate of fire. It says that makes it automatic or potentially increases the rate of fire. The reason that that's important is someone could make an argument that a more precise trigger increases the rate of fire. This also goes for your little, again, a weapon system I don't agree with, the SIG braces or the pistol braces for your rifle pistols. And the reason those are dumb is because they get around SBR laws. I don't disagree with people owning them, and I don't think you shouldn't, and I just don't like them. And we all know what they're for. I get it. You know, I'm not saying anything that anyone hasn't already said. I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, but the reality of the situation is that's what these things are designed for. I still think they're lawful, and I still think people should be able to own them. But here's the catch to all this. If you want to keep your stuff, you have to fight for it. And they've made it wildly apparent they will use unrelated tragedies to try to ban things. So this dude, and I think we're going to find out this situation's a little more complex than we're being sold right away. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe I'll get into that some other time. The long and short of it is this vile dumpster fire decided to take lawful firearms and abuse our right to have them and use them to murder people, innocent people. He didn't use a suppressor, and guess what? The suppressor bill is off the table again. That's not a coincidence. He didn't use enhanced triggers, but that new bill could include them. He didn't use a pistol brace. He didn't use any sort of attachment that did anything other than a bump fire stock. And it's kind of funny that I watch enough, it's not really funny. I watch enough YouTube videos about bump fire stocks that I don't care about to know what one sounds like. It was the first thing I said. Everyone's like, oh, he's got automatic weapons. I was like, nope, it's too slow, and it's not. When you hear enough automatic fire, you can hear the difference between automatic fire and a bump fire stock. You already see the misinformation, and you already see everybody saying, well, we don't need the bump fire stocks. And there's a lot of gun owners saying, we don't need the bump fire stocks. And this is going to bite y'all in the ass. If you let them have this, it's going to be like a patrol canine that gets one bite and he wants to keep biting. He wants to get more bites because you get that adrenaline rush, right? Or like when a shark smells blood in the water. Oh, it's time to go get it. So they're going to take one victory and say, okay, you gave us this. We're going to take this too. We're going to try to get this. So they say, we won on this, let's keep pushing. Or let's use this angle or this loophole that we designed or this law, and each time we renew the budget, we add something to the existing law. That's where this stuff's going. Because they won't just take the bump fire stock. They're not just going to say, just give us the bump fire stock. We'll leave everything else alone, we swear. If they wrote a bill that said, we are banning bump fire stocks, period. Okay, maybe. But they never do anything like that. It's always a paragraph and a half of describing characteristics. Or if you're lucky, it's usually pages, so that they can ban whatever they want at any given time and say that that's the characteristic it fits under. The other problem with this is it bans future innovation, and it bans it essentially puts a cap on the gun renaissance we have. And I know that doesn't bother some of you, and I know that some people would love that to happen, but in reality, it's bad. It's very bad. It limits the Second Amendment. Before y'all jump on the, we don't need bump fire stocks, let them have them, or this one doesn't really, you know, blah, 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 or the NRA is like, yeah, we should review this. And I think the NRA is being kind of smart, even though I wildly disagree with what they're doing. I think what they're trying to do is get bump fire stocks put on the NFA, so that way they can't make a law that's any different than the NFA. So it's including a piece to the NFA versus them saying you can't change your stock, because that's essentially what it's going to be. So, or you can't have a nice trigger or anything like that. And for those of you not thinking like this, shame on you, because you know they do it. Adam Carolla did an amazing podcast about how they don't stop. He had an analogy with smoking. So, would I like to just give them something so they'd leave us alone? Sure. But I know for a fact that's not where it's going to stop. I know for a fact they're not just going to say, okay, thank you, we're not going to bother you anymore, we just want to get rid of that one thing. Because that's not how they work. They regulate stuff into the ground. Look at California, look at New York. They regulate stuff into the ground. They can't help themselves. And it's everything. It's not just guns. It's healthcare, where you can smoke, what you can drive, how much soda you can have. All this stuff. They're manic people. The second they get something, they just continue like, jump into the next thing. They just can't help themselves. You see these kind of people all the time. I've got a boss like that right now. She sees one thing, she gets that dopamine release off of correcting somebody or yelling at somebody or changing something to some ridiculous stuff, and she just keeps going. That's how they are. They just have to keep regulating. They cannot process reality without a myriad of regulations on it. You can't just go get in a kayak and go down the river. You can only go down certain sections of the river. You have to have a helmet. Oh, but if you flip upside down and can't flip over fast enough, then you're going to drown, so you need a breathing apparatus. And there needs to be some sort of design on these canoes so that they automatically flip back over. So you have to spend all this money on a canoe. You can't just buy a $5,000 canoe. No, you got to get a $25,000 canoe. And it has to meet this new safety regulation made by this new group that we put together. You see, it keeps going. They never, ever, ever stop. So if you think for 1 second that we give them bump stocks, or that we participate with their bullshit, they're just going to let us have whatever, or we can somehow trade bump stocks for suppressors, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Suppressors weren't even involved. How dominant are they in the conversation? Think about that one. So, all I wanted to do was give some people some perspective, because quite frankly, I'm going underway. I'm making this video the night before, and hopefully getting it up before I leave. So I just want y'all to think about this, because I'm not going to be here to be commenting on things, writing letters to the NRA, writing letters to my representatives, none of that stuff. I'm not going to be able to do it, and you guys have to do it for me. So I really, really need y'all to pick me up on this one, because I'm going. I got to go work. So think about that. Think about the things I said. I'm not saying you have to agree with me, and I'm not saying you have to agree with me just because I'm not here or because you like me or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But if you feel the same, or you can see the logic in the things I'm pointing out, please write your representatives, write the NRA, write the GOA, and put some pressure on them, because we can't let them take anything from us, because they won't stop. They never stop. Think about that. Thanks for watching. Take care of each other, stay safe, and support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.